So today I'm going to show you a small beginner's guide to manx quilting. This originated on the Isle of Man between Ireland and England, a small tiny island. People didn't use equipment, so they had to find a different way to measure their fabrics. So they started with a foundation piece of fabric. This would be their background of their quilt. So they that's what they started with. Then I'll show you how they got to measure that in a moment. So this was measured by the span of the hand from the tip of the thumb to the tip of the little finger when you stretched your hand out. Mine was 8 inches, so all the blocks were 8 inches square, and they would probably use a knife to cut their fabrics. The blocks usually resemble a log cabin block, so it's always a red for the centre of the hearth, which is the centre block. So this is the fabric I've chosen. So this was measured by the length of your middle finger. Mine was 3 inches, so it was a 3-inch square piece of fabric that they used for the centre of the block. Now, the strips of the fabric were just used with scraps, whatever scraps that they had. Didn't have to be cotton, it could be any fabric that they'd got lying around, because as long as they were all the same length, it didn't matter. And I'll show you how they measured them. So traditionally these were measured with the thumb. I've heard some say from the base of the thumb to the top of the thumb, and some from the base of the thumb to the base of the nail. I did the full length of the thumb, which was 2.5 inches on for mine. So the first thing they'd do when they got all their foundation pieces cut to size was to fold each square into half on the diagonal and gave it a good press, and then folded it the other way, gave it another press, so you've got this cross in the centre of your fabric, which is what they used to line up their centre square. So they would line the 4 corners up of the centre square on the cross of the fabric. As you can see, mine moved slightly as I was taking the photo, so it's not exactly lined up, but that's how they would do it. So the next thing they needed was the guidelines for where their strips of fabric were going to go. So they folded the top down to the top of the centre block and gave that a good press. And then, as you'll see in the next picture coming up, they then folded that down again, so you got 4 press lines, and then they did that on all 4 sides of the fabric. So those were your grid lines that you used for placing your fabrics around the edge. So there you can see the grid lines around my square, ready to start adding the fabric around. Now traditionally they had 2 sides light, 2 sides dark, but they could also be any fabrics that you had lying around, so they didn't have to be light and dark, they could be whatever you'd got. So here I've got my first piece of fabric, which you lay right sides to right sides across your centre square, and then stitch your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you can do it by hand or you could do it by machine. As you can see, I've done it by hand. You can just see my stitches there, and then once you've done that, you fold that back then to meet the first ironed grid line of your that you put on your fabric. So when you finished the manx quilting, you've got like a little lip of your double fabric. So you turned it a 1/4, and then add your next piece in exactly the same way. So 1/4 inch from the edge, and again, you can be either machine or by hand, and then you fold it back. Now, if you're sewing it by hand, before you add your next piece, you always push your needle to the back, so of your work, and then bring it forward once you've placed your pieces together. And as you can see, there's a bit of a discrepancy because that's where you finish sewing the end of your other piece. It's not a problem. If you're doing it by machine, you can just keep over sew that bit. It just doesn't make the spiral on the back, which is the traditional way of doing it. And as you can see, my stitching's not great, but it's it's there, it's fine. So again, you fold that first piece, that second piece up, sorry, to your grid line that you've got where you made the crease in the fabric in your foundation, and get ready then to turn it another quarter, ready to add the next piece. So here's my third piece face down, and ready to stitch across. I'd say this one I'm doing my hand, and I will do another one on the machine just so that you can see the difference in the background on the back of the foundation, and you can see what the difference is. So once again, fold that back, give it a good press, or finger press it when you're doing it. If you're doing it by hand, you can finger press it and then just give it a good iron afterwards. And that's the third piece. So we're about ready to add the fourth piece, which will be coming up now. Here you can see there's my fourth piece just added, and again just sewn a 1/4 inch seam across the two fabrics, and then get ready to fold it back. So there it is, that's my fourth piece folded back, and so when we start the next round, we're going to be working on the one that's got the shortest piece on it and the two that overlap it, and then we go round again, and this time you're going to fold your fabric up to the next grid line all the way round for that round. So the back is, as you can see, that's the back, and it's starting to make that spiral all around the back of the fabric. So there's my next piece added and taken to the next folded grid line, and as you can see, it's looking okay. I think it'll be okay once it's done, and I'll eventually show you how to sew them all together. So here's my next piece, which is the sixth piece that I'm added, which again face down, and I've cut it to length. Traditionally they would have a long piece, sew that and then trim it. I've trimmed it before I sewed it down. It doesn't matter which way you do it. So there's that piece folded back. I quite like the look of that fabric, it's very pretty, but you don't see much of it once it's once you've gone round another round on top. You won't see much of the snowflakes on it. So here we are with piece 7. I've already sewn it and folded it back. Then, as you can see, I've still got the pin in the centre, although I don't need it there anymore because it is held down. So I could have taken that pin out, but to be honest, I just left it there. It wasn't doing any harm. Then this was the final piece added to the second round of pieces. I did try to keep them in blues, and the first round were all sorts of reds. And again, so it was all up to that second fold line. We've got one more fold line and then the final edge to do, so 2 more rounds. So I've started this second round, as you can see, with the red. Didn't use the original first piece that I did with the little pink flowers on. Moved on to the next piece because I'd got a different red that I wanted to add afterwards. So here's my next piece, which, as you can see, I've used before. Just moved it round one in the scheme, and sewed that round, pressed it up, ready for the final piece of this round. So that's the final piece of this round. Then I've got one more blue round to put on, and this will be folded right to the very edge of the piece. So it'll finish off the piece. So here's my first two. I obviously didn't take a picture of the first one, but there's two of them that I've added, and I've taken them right to the edge of the piece of foundation. So that's the third piece of the final row on, and the very last piece will be a different colour to finish it off. And then I need to make some more blocks, which I'm going to do tomorrow. So that's there, as you can see. And then this is the final piece added on and put into place. And as you can see, I've put pins just to hold them on the edges until I'm ready to sew my pieces together. So here's the back, and I'm not quite sure you can see the spiral, but it does actually spiral round for the sewing, where you can see the sewing of it, and it won't do that if you're doing it by a machine. So here's the final block. Once it's been given a good press, and it's finally pressed all the seams into place, and it looks quite a nice block, I think. So I'm looking forward to having another go. This is the first time I've done it, and it was quite easy. So I hope you enjoyed it.